Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David. I'm the host of Rally Now, a Pickleball podcast. Today, I'm very honored to have Xiao Yi Wang-Beckvall on the show to talk about her amazing pickleball journey with us. She's one of the very few women pickleball players I've followed along since last year as we had this like PPA Tour Asia amazing tournament. And as I recall, she won incredible results from last year, including like the gold medal in Panis, Malaysia women's double. So that's fantastic performance. And I'm sure I'm going to miss a lot because she won quite a few others as well. We'll deep dive a little bit her amazing tournaments last year's, as well as her pickleball journeys. I know she came from a tennis background, and that's a very interesting transition. So I will uncover a lot of interesting things like how she moved from tennis to pickleball today. But before that, I want to give a chance to Xiao Yi to greet our fans and audience today. And Xiao Yi, please say hi or just maybe quickly introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you for your great introduction, David, and thanks for having me on today. Hello everyone. I'm Xiao Yi Wang-Beckvall. I was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii, and last year I spent quite a bit of time competing across Asia and was just having a blast getting to visit all sorts of Asia countries that I had never been to before and got to return to a few of my favorites. Yeah, and getting to continue this really fun, exciting pickleball journey and meeting all sorts of cool people like yourself along the way. So thanks everyone for watching and for supporting me.
Awesome. So I got a few non-pickleball related questions for you first, okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
So as I recognize from your first name, it does sound familiar. And I know you have a Chinese name. I think it's called Wang Xiaoyi, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about your family? Like, your backgrounds and your Chinese name as well. So that's very interesting to know.
Yeah, so clearly I have a Chinese name. Maybe not so clear to some people is that I am half Chinese. So my mom is originally from mainland China and my father is American. So they met in Hawaii and that was where I was born and raised. And then my parents, actually, they're both very passionate about tennis. So they actually met playing tennis, like on the tennis court.
Wow.
So pretty much, So pretty much since I could walk, I like had a tennis racket in my hand, basically. So growing up, that was, that's where we spent all our time was at the tennis courts. So I was competing like junior tennis competitions. I was playing throughout high school. And then in my senior year of high school, I was our team captain for my high school back in Hawaii. Yeah. So I was always playing tennis, did struggle with some burnout growing up because I'm sure Chinese parents, Chinese moms in particular, can be kind of like tiger moms a bit. So
I'm very familiar with that.
Yeah. So there was some times where there was quite a bit of pressure, even though, looking back, it was only junior tennis. So it wasn't really that serious in like the grand scheme of things. But yeah, so after high school, I didn't really have the desire to continue playing tennis in college. I just wanted to focus on academics. So I stepped away from tennis and from sports in general for kind of a while, like the whole of my college career.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until after I had graduated college that I had played pickleball for the first time.
Yeah.
But it was more so like a way just to like get active again after being like sedentary for so long. So yeah, it just started out as just like a fun hobby and then just grew from there. And now we're here.
Awesome. Well, quite a few things we can uncover a little bit more. So I'm curious, how good is your Mandarin?
It's not great. Like I can understand like a very basic level of Mandarin. Like I can order at like a dim sum restaurant or like, ask for where the bathroom is or something like that. Like I'm not like gonna have like a very articulate conversation in Chinese.
Of course. I'm not trying to put you on the hot seat, okay? Since most of our listeners, and I believe a lot of your fans, they speak Mandarin. Would you want to try like maybe greet something in Mandarin? Just say hello, like 你好.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. It is Chinese New Year. Yeah, sure. Okay. 好，我是王小怡。谢谢大家的支持，我会继续加油。新年快
Wow.
乐。
Wow. Amazing.
I wrote that down on the side. I was like reading it. I can't take that much credit.
But I mean, that's definitely impressive. So thank you for being a good sport. So I was, as I recall your story, like you had a tennis background, as you mentioned. Do you have siblings? Like, are you the only child?
Yeah, I'm the only child. Just
Okay.
me. I don't have any siblings. Yeah.
I see. So, seems like tennis is a big thing, like in your family, right? So your parents, they got together like on the tennis court. That's amazing. And
Yeah.
you played like through college, I believe.
No, I stopped before college. So
Okay.
through high school.
I
Yeah.
see.
And then I stopped and then I focused more so on my academics throughout college. And then, so I stopped after high school.
Yeah, I wonder, like, as you enter college, that's kind of the typical phase, people start to think about the future career, like, what the profession will be post graduation. In your case, since you stopped tennis, like in
Yeah.
high school, what was the thinking back then for you? Like, if not pickleball, I'm sure you were not thinking about pickleball back then, right?
No, yeah. That wasn't even on my radar. I didn't actually even know that it had become a professional sport until it was, I don't know how long I'd been playing like recreationally at that point.
Yeah.
But I did not know anything about the pickleball world when I first started, and definitely not in college. So
So
during
what was your
college,
thinking back in college?
so I majored in biology, and then I got a minor in forensic health science. So I had quite a few different interests because I really liked chemistry. I liked biology. I also really liked like I guess like criminal shows where they're using like forensic evidence to catch criminals, that kind of stuff. So I was kind of thinking like maybe I wanted to go down that route. And then in my senior year, I took a genetics course and I really fell in love with genetics.
Yeah.
And so then I went and I interned at a genetics. It was like for pregnant women. So it was the Fetal Diagnostic Institute. So I was interning as a genetic counseling assistant. And I spent some time there and I really enjoyed it. And I loved the office. I loved the work. But at that point, I was also starting to play pickleball at the same time. And at that point, it was after college and I was starting to play. At that point, I was starting to get like every single day. And it was like in my free time, it's like all I was thinking about. I was like, oh, what drills can I run? How soon can I get home and change and get to the court? So it was kind of like taking over my mind at that point. And then I just started, I entered like a fun, like a local tournament. It was my very first tournament it was my very first competition since I was 18 because I had spent like that big chunk of time away. So I was so nervous getting back into my first competition and it was like bringing me back to like junior tennis days. I was like, it was bringing me right back to when I was 18 and competing. But then I forgot how much fun it was. Like I realized like, I have a lot of joy when I compete and I'd forgotten about that because of like all the pressure and like just it was just like so many things in tennis that kind of like took away that joy of tennis. But like pickleball was like similar but different enough that I still had that joy of competing.
Yeah.
And I just started getting a little bit more serious from then because I had pretty good results in my first tournament. But I also entered like a very low division. But it gave me like a lot of hope that I haven't been playing for very long, but I'm doing pretty well. So I was like, I think like if I just put in some more time, some more effort, I was like, I think I can do this. I think I can get a lot better. Yeah, and then I just started going from there.
Yeah. So I don't want to get this like very nerdy, but genetic counseling,
Mm.
it seems like very scientific, like
Yes,
in
it is.
like a lot of lab work, I suppose. Is that true?
Yes. So you work hand in hand, like with a laboratory, but as a genetic counselor, you would send off like you're taking a test like of
Yeah.
the client, but you're sending it off to a lab. So they're gonna like run the test like and figure out like, oh, they have a predisposition for this disease or they have this genetic marker. So there's potential for them to develop this certain thing in the future. So like as a genetic counselor, you're taking on a little bit more of, like the human aspect. So
Mm-hmm.
you're like counseling the patient. So depending on what results they're getting back, like let's say like they do have that disposition for that disease. So then you have to figure out like in what way can I compassionately convey this to them and let them know their options like for next steps. So
Very
I liked
important.
that about genetic counseling, that it encompassed like both the science part but also the human part.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt that was like a very interesting middle ground that I enjoyed exploring. So that was what drew me to genetic counseling.
Were you working full-time back then already, or was that like just an intern?
So I started out interning. It was my senior year of college, and then after my internship was done, then they did hire me on, so I was working there after
I
I
see.
graduated. Yeah,
Okay.
and then yeah, so I got to experience the working life a little bit before I left for pickleball.
So how long was that, like, before going pro pickleball, like full-time?
Yeah.
A year, maybe?
Yeah, it was roughly around a year. Yeah. At the time I was like starting to get, because when I first started that job, I was like just dipping my toe into pickleball. And then I started, practicing more, entering a few local competitions. And then I started like flying to like the mainland to play maybe like one tournament a month. And then I was of course requesting time off from work. And it was like every single month I was like, oh, I feel little bad. I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm always requesting time off so I can play these tournaments. And then I realized I was like, I think my mind is like in two different places right now. So I think I want to, like, while I'm young and while I'm healthy and I have this opportunity, like I want to focus on pickleball for now. And I figured, I can always come back to genetic counseling because I already have my degree. I already graduated, fortunately. So
Yeah.
at any time, it's like if I want to get back into the science, the nerd world, it's right there. I still can.
Yeah. Well
Yeah.
said. On pickleball, you mentioned a couple of things, like your first tournament. And I'm wondering, like, who brought pickleball to you? I'm sure
Yeah.
the sport was existing back then, but if you recall, did someone play a role like in bringing you to the world of pickleball? Would you say?
So I guess how it was introduced to me was that my boyfriend had signed he and I up for a local pickleball league in
Uh-huh.
Honolulu. And it was meant, I guess, more so for like a like a fun couples activity. But at that point I hadn't played yet. He'd played maybe like once or twice. But he'd
Okay.
signed us up and he's like, hey, next weekend we're gonna join this team and we're gonna, play pickleball. And I was like, oh, like what is that? What is pickleball? It's like, is this even gonna be fun? And then it was like the weekend before our first like match day. And then we were like, I guess we have to, go out on the court and like at least hit once before we join the league. So we went out and we like tried to hit a little bit. And it was not as easy as I thought it was going to be, which I think probably was a good thing because it like frustrated me just enough that it made me interested in it because I was like, I thought I was going to be a lot better than this. And I'm not. And I didn't like that he was like a little bit better than me. So that kind of
Yeah.
like really like,
Compet-
yes, yeah, I'm like super competitive. So
yeah.
that really was like the catalyst that made me want to get like really good at it. Because I was like, I'm gonna get better than you and you're not gonna be able to beat me anymore. Yeah. And then yeah.
It's so fun. I think your first tournament experience was a kind of crucial point as you move on to the pickleball professional career. Tell us a little bit, like, your experience overall, like the results, your competitors. What still do you remember from your first tournament?
Mm. So I think the biggest thing that I was feeling at that first tournament was that I was very nervous because it had reminded me so much of junior tennis. And
Yeah,
there
people
were
are watching.
there were people watching, but I don't think that was what made me nervous. I think it was because when I was competing in the juniors, there was like a lot of these like negative emotions attached to it just because of there's like a lot of pressure put on me, by my parents
To
or
perform.
to perform. So I think those things are kind of, I think in the back of my mind, I was thinking like, is it going to feel the same? Like, am I going to be able to do this? Or is it going to be too similar that I'm not going to enjoy this? But yeah, so then I went out and then I just, I think I honestly don't remember too much of the competition part itself, but I remember that I had a lot of fun and a lot of joy when I was competing, which was unexpected. I was not expecting that. Yeah, it made me want to continue getting better and to continue playing more tournaments, which when my parents first saw that I was like interested in competing and playing, they were like shocked because
They thought
they
you
thought
gave
like
up.
that part of my life was done and they thought like that's not something that she enjoys anymore. I mean, they understood why I stepped away from tennis, but they were really surprised. They were like you want to go out and drill? Like you're the one who's like self-motivated now? They're just like very, very surprised. But yeah, I think when it became like my own thing and it was on my terms, and then I really got a lot of enjoyment out of it. And then I realized that I do enjoy competing and it was for myself, but not just because I grew up being told that you're a competitor, this is what you do. But then I realized like, yeah, I like competing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I figured that out for myself.
Quick sideway.
Mm.
Are your parents, would they watch your pickleball matches sometimes?
When they no matter what time it is, they will be watching my matches if it's streamed online, like on YouTube or PBTV, wherever. So they're very supportive. They love to watch. And then, I mean, they don't travel much, so they were never able to watch me compete in person until last year. There was a tournament in Hawaii, so there was a local tournament back home. So that was the
Yeah.
first time they were able to watch me compete. So that was really nice having them there, and we were kind of getting to like rewrite the history from the past, and just having them there like supporting me and watching me it was a really nice feeling.
I can kind of imagine because you mentioned Tiger Mom. Not like
Yeah.
I'm saying your mom is a Tiger Mom, but I had a sense like there was some sort of like expectations as you kind of play the junior tennis.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering, like, what's their take on you now being a pro pickleball player and one of the best, like in Asia, of course. I'm curious, like, what are their thinkings at this point as they reflect on your junior tennis,
Hmm.
period.
Yeah. They think it's really cool. I mean, the initial um because of course they didn't know anything about pickleball at the very beginning. So they were just a little bit skeptical at the start because they were like they had no prior knowledge of pickleball. They didn't know anything about the scene. But now they're like really big fans of pickleball and I think my mom watches pickleball more than tennis now. Like I think she might
Wow.
even watch more pickleball than I do. Like I'll just when I'm back home, I'll like come home and then she's just there on her laptop with the pickleball pulled up. She's just watching another match. She's like, "Did you watch this match?" I was like, "Not yet. I was practicing. I was on the court." But yeah, they think it's really cool and they're really supportive. So that's really I'm really grateful for that.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
You mentioned like you had this like two kind of competing priorities, I would say, like when you were still with the genetic counseling. So one was like focusing on pickleball, and the other one was like still trying to do your original full-time job. I'm curious, like what made you to pull the trigger? Like say, you know what, I'm out of genetic counseling. I'm going full time to play pickleball. So what was like the timing and the opportunity?
Yeah. I think I think it came down to like when I woke up in the morning and when I went to bed at night, like what was the first and last thing I was thinking about?
Yeah.
And at the time I was realizing it wasn't genetic counseling. It was pickleball. So it was really taking over my mind and I was getting like super like addicted, I guess, obsessed with it as most people who play pickleball have that phase. And yeah, I was realizing like it was coming to a point where the thing that I wanted to do most that day was to be on the court, to be practicing and to be getting better. And there were times where I'd be at work and I would be thinking like, oh my goodness, like I could have been using these hours to practice. Like I could have
Yeah.
been doing like these drills, or I could have been, getting like these practice games in. And then I was catching myself and I was like, oh, okay. So if I'm having these thoughts, then I think that is a good sign that shows me that I'm pretty serious about this. I bit the bullet and I had that conversation with them that I told them like, I want to be able to be here fully and be present when I'm at work. And I don't think I can do that right now. So I think I need to take a step away. And they're
Yeah.
very understanding.
It sounds like pickleball swallowed you already, like your mind. I mean,
Yes. Yes, it
definitely
did.
you
It
you
did.
follow your heart, I suppose, because that's I think what your energy is going to, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I didn't want to fight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you're now in Malaysia, right? Physically.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am
So
in Malaysia. Yeah.
from Honolulu to Malaysia, I'm sure there are a lot of happenings like, in between. So I guess to paint a bigger picture for our listeners, maybe walk us through like from your decision to go pro until now, like, I'm sure there are a lot of, tournaments that you've involved, including those that I mentioned, like in PPA Tour Asia.
Hmm.
So from a timeline standpoint, shall we, so from there, what just happened until now you're located in Malaysia, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. So I would say that the very beginning, it started with MLP Australia and PPA Australia. Because in 2024, I played 2 seasons of MLP Australia. And that was kind of like my first exposure to like international professional pickleball. And then from there, I was playing tournaments around, but it was a little bit sporadic. And then I wouldn't say that 2024 was too much of like full-time professional pickleball, because I don't even think I've had tournaments like every single month. I would say like last year, 2025, was what I would call the first year where I was playing like full-time
Yeah.
professional pickleball. And I think when I counted like how many events I'd played throughout 2025, I think it was something around like 22 or 23 events last year. But it was including like
That's
team
a lot.
events.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is I hadn't realized it was that many. I was
Yeah.
like to me it felt like it was like a healthy schedule. Like I was always somewhere doing something, but I didn't feel like I didn't have time for myself. So I was a little bit surprised, and I counted it up and I was like, oh, that was actually quite a few events.
Yeah.
So it was a big contrast compared to 2024, where I felt like 2024 I was just kind of testing it out, seeing what it was
Uh,
like. And then, yeah, 2025 was when I was playing, well, it was the first year of PPA Asia events. So I played all
yeah.
the PPA Asia events last year. And yeah, I had some nice results, especially with the first PPA Malaysia, where I had won women's doubles, and then
Congratulations
PPA
again.
Vietnam.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that was probably one of the most memorable tournaments for me. One of the most memorable matches. And yeah. And of course, it was the first stop of the PPA Asia tour. So that
Right.
made it
Right.
really special. Yeah.
So let's go there. So because that's also like the first time I heard of your name
Mm.
actually, because I was talking to Jamie back then. She had the first PPA tour in Malaysia. I think you were partners, winning the gold.
Hmm.
So as I watched the matches, I started recognizing you, and after then, so started following your journey on the very first PPA tour, like in Malaysia, and you had gold medal. That was like amazing, right? If you look back, like what was like the experience? What was like the feeling? Coming out of Malaysia Open.
Yeah. Wow. It was really, hmm, I think because during the match, I was like very like focused and trying to maintain and like being calm. I think it didn't really hit me until I was like trying to pack to leave to fly out. Because if you remember, like the trophy was like
So
humongous.
big, yeah.
It was so big and it
Did
was
you have to
so
carry
heavy.
that?
Well, I mean, I guess I didn't have to, but I wanted
Okay.
to.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna make this work. Like, even if I have to leave some stuff behind, I'm taking this trophy with me.
Yeah.
So
Worth
like
the investment.
I was like, yeah. So I was like packing up to leave that night. And the flight was quite early in the morning. So I don't think I even slept that night. It was like had the tournament, we like ate a little bit, like very brief celebration, but then I had to go back to the Airbnb, pack up for my flight, and then I just had my open suitcase with the huge trophy. I was like thinking like how am I gonna make this work? And then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna like wrap all my clothes around the trophy. So like wrapped it up and then I just like put it in my suitcase. But I think, yeah, I think it wasn't until I was like wrapping up the trophy, I was like, wow, we did this, we won. Like yeah, really cool moment. Yeah.
One thing that stood out to me, Xiao Yi, was I don't know if that's a style or if that's like a strategy you were trying to do. I
Mm.
could definitely quickly sense that you were the calmer person on the court. As I recall the match, especially the final, I think it was an intense one. Talking to Jamie, I realized she had, like her ways of like expressing out, like, she slapped a paddle on her legs, for example. She was trying to, ease a little bit the tensions. And I definitely could quickly notice like you were the pillar on the court, like trying to still maintain things, keep things going. How would you describe the style of your play? That's kind of my question. Like is that an intentional thing, or is that, for example, like something you grabbed from the tennis days? Like that's kind of typically how you go about your important matches.
I think I think that just stems a lot from my personality as well. Is that I'm for the most part I'm pretty level. There's
Yeah,
not really like huge ups
up
or
and
like
down.
huge down. Yeah, I'm like pretty calm, like pretty like chill for the most part.
Yeah.
Of course, everyone has their days. So I think that has a lot to do with just how I am, like day to day life. But I've also found like when I'm competing, like when I'm able to be in that headspace is when I actually happen to be like playing my best pickleball. It's like I'm not really like it's like I'm there, but I'm not there. Like I'm not really like conscious of like what's happening like outside of just like this point and like this ball. It's like I can't really hear like the crowd or like other things that are going on. It's
Yeah.
more like, okay, we're focusing on this point. This point's done. We're moving on to the next point. Yeah. So like when I was just telling myself to just be calm and just like, just breathe and just focus on the ball. And like that's just happens to be how I play when I'm
Yeah.
in the zone.
And it's fascinating to watch, Xiao Yi.
Mm.
I don't know, like for me, like I get a feeling like nothing could disrupt you. You were calm, and then you felt like you had the centerpiece. Like you know what was going on the court.
Mm.
And for us, like me included, like pickleball players, sometimes it's very hard to do because you get a lot of distractions, and I don't know how you could do it because the court was packed with a lot of fans like watching, and
Mm.
I think it was hot, right? I mean, temperature wise.
Yeah. So what's interesting is like when I like try to think of the moment now, it's like I can't really recall too many like physical sensations. Like I knew that it was hot, but I don't
Yeah,
remember feeling hot. Or, like
yeah.
I knew that it must have been loud, but I don't remember that it was loud.
Wow.
But yeah, but that's something that I'm working on is like to be able to get into that headspace like more consistently. Um, because yeah, it's not like well, as soon as I'm playing, I'm in that headspace. It's like if things are aligned and I'm able to get there, then it's gonna go well. But I'm still working on being able to get in that headspace like more consistently when I'm competing.
Great, great. But let's fast forward to one of the most important recent news in the pickleball world. You're signing with the PPA, and I think that was a huge news. As I saw the news, I felt happy for you, happy for the sports. That means a lot. I mean, to especially the pickleball in Asia. But I maybe want to take a chance to have you help us unpack like this big announcement. What does it mean to you, like career wise? or your
Hmm.
future tournaments, and what does that mean even to like the pickleball, for example, in Asia particularly?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for your kind words and for acknowledging that. Yeah, it felt like a really important step in my pickleball career because I feel like I mean PPA is it's pretty much like the primary like professional pickleball entity. And of course there are some other entities surrounding it, but I feel like
Yeah,
PPA has been there pretty much from the beginning. So I feel like it's to sign with them, it's pretty validating like of my results and of my experience. And it has helped me feel like I'm on the right track with my pickleball career. But it doesn't feel like the end of having accomplished something. Like to me, it just feels like it's just the
the
beginning.
beginning. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like now that I'll be only playing PPA events, so I'll be playing both PPA Asia and PPA US. So I'm
nice.
looking forward to playing more in the US because that wasn't something that I had that much opportunity to do previously. But
Yeah,
now that I'm signed and the opportunity is there, then I'm really looking forward to competing against, the very best of the very best.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to those opportunities and seeing where I measure up and knowing what I need to work on and what I do well. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot about myself and my game like from this experience.
Yeah. One thing out of curiosity, as we try to, see through what the pros do day to day. The other day, I recognized this full packed PPA Tour Asia schedule in 2026. I
Mm,
think there are close to 10 or over 10. I can't remember, but there are a lot this year. And so you mentioned you were also going to be part of the US tournaments as well, right? So, and let's just recall you had 20, 30-ish tournaments last year, right?
oh no,
Um,
like 2023, 20 around
23.
23. Yeah.
23. And
Yeah.
as I imagine this year, one thing I started to, I don't know, like it's hard to make it work mentally. Like how do you coordinate like all these international tournaments like in the US, like in Asia?
Hmm.
And Asia is all over the place, like in Vietnam, in Hong Kong, in Japan, so it's everywhere, right? How do you kind of make your schedule work? I think that's my question.
I think for me, I don't want to like overwhelm myself and like look at too many things at once. For me, I'm just kind of like focusing kind of like as they come, and I'm just trying to plan, I guess, in small batches
Yeah.
so that I don't, get too overwhelmed because it is a lot. So I think if I like thought about it in terms of like an entire year, I think that would probably overwhelm me. But yeah, I found that like just breaking it up into like more manageable chunks of time has been helpful and just like taking things as they come instead of trying to tackle too many things at once. But that's something that I had to learn throughout last year as well when I was trying to plan like international tournaments and just tournaments in general. Like you learn like, oh, there's actually quite a few logistics that you don't really think about.
Like trophies.
But yeah, if you do well, then yeah, the trophy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like visas, your plane ticket, your hotels, your
Yep.
partners for the events. Yeah, so like every tournament, there's like a bunch of like little decisions. So yeah, so if I just take it like tiny steps at a time, then it's more manageable.
Yeah. Speaking
Yeah.
of partners, my last part of the question on the PPA tours is you partnered and competed against many, many top women pickleball players, right? So if you look back, which ones would you say that give you the most kind of vivid memories in terms of like competition? Like, for example, if you see the draw, you'll be like, this will be tough. Did someone ring the bell to you?
I think because PPA Asia was relatively new or was new last year, that there
Yeah.
weren't that many US players coming to play in the PPA Asia events. So
Maybe towards the
personally,
end, there were more, right?
yeah, but personally, I actually haven't competed against like any of the top 10 players in the
Hmm.
world yet,
Hmm.
actually. So I'm still looking forward to doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that may be like the future happening for this year as you
Yeah.
go to the US.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to competing against the best, playing
Yeah.
against the best.
Cool. Awesome. So yeah, as we wrap up for today, last chance maybe for the fans to get to know more about you.
Mhm.
So maybe we'll throw some fun facts. We started actually from your name, Xiao Yi, and maybe let's end with something that perhaps fans don't know about you. You think, and I think that'll be interesting for them to,
Mhm. Well, in my free time, I really like watching mysteries, thrillers, and like horror genre. Like that's my favorite
movies
genre to watch.
or
Like
books.
movies, TV
Movies.
shows. Yeah, like anything like that. Like if it's mystery, thriller, horror, it's my favorite genre.
Yeah.
And then second favorite would be comedy. So it's either like kind of scary or it's funny. Like those are my top two, my favorites. What else?
How about food? As you've been
Yeah.
so many places, right?
Yeah.
If there's let's say, last superb, what would that be for you if you have to choose?
That's a good question. Well, growing up in Hawaii, I grew up eating like pretty much like all kinds of Asian cuisine. So my number one favorite food is like pretty much any kind of Asian food. But if it was my last supper, it would probably be like a Japanese like teishoku like set meal. Like, you
Wow.
get like your
Yeah,
main,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So you get like maybe like you have butterfish, you have your udon, you have your
Yeah.
rice, miso soup. Yeah, you just have the full spread. Yeah, it'd probably be Japanese like teishoku. Oh, and like some sashimi, some
Yeah.
sushi. Yeah, just
Nice.
everything. Yeah.
I don't know where I read it, but correct me if I'm wrong. You like soup in general?
Yeah. Yeah, I do love soup. Yeah, pretty much any kind of soup I enjoy. Like
Yeah.
and stews and curries. Just like anything like that's, warm and like comforting. But yes, you're right. I really love soup. All kinds
Yeah.
of soup.
After match or before match?
Pretty much any time. Like I could have some kind of soup every single day, I think. I could probably have it like twice a day, every single day. As long
Yeah.
as I'm like mixing it up here and there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. But you're
I'm
right.
with
I do
you.
love soup.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
One of my best choices of comfort food is like miso soup. Miso soup
Yeah. I
is
love
how I
miso
like
soup.
to end the meal if I'm not getting enough like happiness from the day.
Yeah. Yeah. It is like it's a very comforting. It's like a hug for your stomach, like having
Yes,
some kind of soup. Yeah.
yes. That I think it's our common interest. But thank you so much. Finally, any special words for your fans, sponsors, or anybody who care about your professional growth in general? So anything you want to say to them?
Yeah. Just thank you everyone for watching, for supporting. It means a lot to me and I'm very grateful to everyone. So thank you and I'm looking forward to this year. So stay tuned.
Thank you, Xiao Yi. Thank you for being on the show today. And I'll definitely keep the lookout and cheer for you this year and beyond. Stay tuned on your tournaments, and we'll be watching online, of course, for your incredible plays.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.